I mean, it's really important for us to remember our history. I mean, it's really important for us to remember our history. You know, unless you're one of the first Americans, a Native American, you came from someplace else. Somebody brought you. Unless you're one of the first Americans, a Native American, you came from someplace else. Somebody brought you. Unless you're one of the first Americans, a Native American, you came from someplace else. Somebody brought you. Unless you're one of the first Americans, a Native American, you came from someplace else. Somebody brought you. The Irish, who left behind a land of famine. The Germans, who fled persecution. The Scandinavians, who arrived eager to pioneer out west. The Polish, the Russians, the Italians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the West Indians, the huddled masses who came through Ellis Island on one coast and Angel Island on the other. Now, the huddled masses who came through Ellis Island on one coast and Angel Island on the other. Now, the Irish, who left behind a land of famine.
Whether you were immigrants from generations back like my family that came from Ireland, whether you were immigrants from generations back like my family that came from Ireland.
All those folks, before they were us, they were them. Before they were us, they were them. And when each new wave of immigrants arrived, they faced each new wave of immigrants arrived. And when each new wave of immigrants arrived, they faced resistance from those who were already here. They faced hardship. They all came here knowing that what makes somebody an American is not just blood or birth. They all came here knowing that what makes somebody an American is not just blood or birth, but they all came here knowing that what makes somebody an American is not just blood or birth, but allegiance to our founding principles and the faith in the idea that anyone from anywhere can write the next great chapter of our story. And that's still true today.
Democracy, as they call it, is nothing new to us because we had it before they came here and they stole it from us.
Those values and principles that are so universal.
The great law of peace from the Haudenosaunee people, the ones that are known as the Mohawk, Oneida, Seneca, Cayuga, Mohegan, Tuscarora from up north in New York. The great law of peace was already established. And if you go to a computer and print out the great law of peace and print out the U.S. Constitution, you will find that it's parallel because it was stolen by Benjamin Franklin and his boys from the Iroquois Confederacy. We have always believed that the Great Spirit, some call him Allah, some call him Jehovah, some call him Yahweh, some call him Yair, and we have many names for him within our languages. The Great Spirit, responsible for everything that exists here on Grandmother Earth. And he made us, all of us, the black, the red, the white, and the yellow, as brothers and sisters, not as adversaries. But he made us and he placed us here to serve each other and to be guardians of Grandmother Earth. Indeed. I am Cherokee, Taino, Shoshone. I am a registered member of the U.S.A.R Cherokee Nation.
Allah. Garnet. Allah. Garnet. Allah. Garnet.
Somebody Bisa'e, our Creator. It is the same as you call him, Allah. These were the words Muhammad Ali was a leader among men and a champion of the people.
We're the only tribe in the USA that got a gift from God. So that's what they concluded, the way things went. And there's 11 Muslim nations are looking at you for you to say yes. We are part of it then.
So it's very frustrating to try to prove that you're Native American. I found it frustrating for me because I was like, where is it? I know that I'm Islamic, that I'm Islamic, that I'm Islamic. And I know, well, Islamic, if you want to call it that.
And there's 11 Muslim nations are looking at you for you to say yes. We are part of it then. And there's 11 Muslim nations are looking at you for you to say yes. We are part of it then, and out here, 11 nations. And that's where we're at.
And so the Muslim nations believe the Lakotas are one of their...
Yeah, one of their bands.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. And nations believe the Lakotas are one of their...
Yeah, one of their bands.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. And so the Muslim nations believe the Lakotas are one of their...
Yeah, one of their bands.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
Obviously, you can tell that these are from Europe. Okay, even look at the coat of arms. Okay, this as well, bow and arrow. Okay, this is Indian Moran. So Moor, you see it right there, and both Indian Moran. So, and then he's dressed like the same images I've been showing, feathers, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is what this is what I wanted to get and show. Okay, so this is a painting. Okay, and so this is a painting. Alright, so as you can see at the bottom, it says Moor. Okay, and that obviously is clearly a Negro, broad nose, thick lips. Okay, so this is from the British Museum. Okay, so it says the Black Archer after Cornelius Vischer, a young Moor half-length holding a bow and arrow facing right and looking back over his shoulder to the left. Okay, so matter of fact, and then down here it says the inscription content. It says letter below the image, thus armed the Indian with his dart and bow. Okay, so let's get a little more on that. Alright, so as you can see, it says Indian. Okay, so let's see why. Okay, so this was from the Wikipedia. Alright, so it says portrait of a Moor with a bow and arrow by John de Fisher, 1650, after a drawing by Cornelius Fisher. I believe they were brothers. It says, which was possibly inspired by the same subject. Two inscriptions for the portrait exist. The first, an engraving by Cornelius Fisher, reads, I think it's Dutch, but it says, thus lifts the Moor his bow and arrow, the enemy or wildlife to eye. Okay, then it says, in the 1750 reproduction of Vischer's portrait held at the British Museum and published by George Pulley of London, the caption below describes the archer as an American Indian, replacing the word Moor for Indian, the words being interchangeable at the time. So below describes the archer as an American Indian, replacing the word Moor for Indian, the words being interchangeable at the time. So below describes the archer as an American Indian, replacing the word Moor for Indian, the words being interchangeable at the time. So rest to the paragraph of that source. But it says the 1750 reproduction of Vicious' portrait, published by George Pulley of London, describes the subject as an Indian, presumably of American origin. All right, so like I said, stop playing games. Okay, so Indians was called Moor, Negro. Okay, I mean, a lot of things that can describe as being of colored. You know what I'm saying? So,
this is a definition from 1828. It was the Dictionary of American. It says, a native of America, semicolon, originally applied to the Aboriginals or the copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. So this is huge. I'm going to read it again. It might sound redundant, but I'm doing this for a reason. Okay, this is what American means, or what it did mean. And people might say, well, this is 1828. It doesn't know. There's a lot going on in 1828. So what that definition said at that point in time is very important, because this is when you had things going on like Native Americans being forced off their land, black people being enslaved, okay, at the same fucking time. So it's telling you, American means a native of America that originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races founded by the Europeans, but now applies to the descendants of Europeans born in America. That's huge, man. That's huge. This is like racial category, American Indian or Alaskan Native. It says, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America, and maintains tribal affiliation. All right? Just look up SF 181. Asian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, Indian subcontinent. Listen to all these places, Philippines, Japan. I'm going to read black last because that's the slave race. Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific islands. White, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Black or African American. Save the worst for last. A person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Any of the black racial groups. Everyone else is connected to an original peoples of somewhere in the world, but that black African American is having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Not even a people, not even an original people, just a black racial group. What does that mean? Okay.
In the 40s, you was color people. They was calling our people color people. In the 50s, we was calling Negroes. In the 60s, blacks. 70s, Afro-Americans, Nubians. In the 80s, you was black people. In the 90s, you was African Americans, Afrocentric. I mean, I could go on with that. You gotta get people think that these are real identities of a people. Negro, Indian, Chicanos, blacks, white folks, Latinos, color people, African Americans. There's no place on earth that these people exist.
Aspect, but this is from Carlos Marquez. He said the Negro type is seen in the most ancient Mexican sculptures. The Negroes figure frequently in the most remote traditions of some American pueblos. It is to this race doubtlessly belongs the most ancient skeletons, distinct from the red American race. So distinct from the red American race or the Mongols. Okay, so how come this guy knows this, but men that's been in the truth all these years, they can't see that and couldn't the distinction, but yet men is running around here talking about they got 100% truth. Other one, Dr. Nicholas Leon, and y'all see the sources though, but it says the almost extinction of the original Negroes during the time of the Spanish conquest and the memories of them in the most ancient tradition induce us to believe that the Negroes were the first inhabitants of Mexico. Okay, so which was a cut to Ayash. It wasn't, Negroes didn't just pop up in Mexico during slavery. No, they
peep game. Natural boundaries between the Anglo-Saxon and the Mauritanian races, right? Okay, there Mexico begins, right? Beyond the Bravo begins the Moorish people and their Indian associates. Moorish people and the Indian associates. Mexico, we in Americas, man.
Peru, that people call Hindustan, that now they call India. And when you go into their anthropological records, and they will tell you themselves, they are Moors. And this is where they get the term Indian, when they started calling us Indians, when they thought they were going to take over this gold and spice trade, trying to get to Hindustan. And actually Pedro the Moor took them to the Atlantis Islands, and they saw the culture of the people, and they saw statues with feathers on, with old, big, cut rock statues with feathers on, and they called us Indians on this side because they thought they reached India. But actually we are what? The same people, but we're Moors. And actually there is no India. That's Hindustan. And its ancient name is Peru. And the ancient and the Hindustani will tell you, when you present the argument in them, to them, that they know that the Europeans call them Indians too, but they are not Indians, just like we're not Indians. They're Hindustani. And their ancient name is Moors, Mohammedans, i.e. Peru, and that the Moors changed the name about a couple thousand years ago. And that's Peru, etc., etc.
1876, the native races of New England were spoken of indifferently as Indians and Moors. And our British Indians are also remembered as Moors.
Indian is not the consanguinity. We provide clarity. Indian is not the consanguinity of any people. All right? So when Shem says Indian is a British subject, it's a Moor. Let's provide clarity. A Moor under the classification of Indian is a British subject in international law. Once again, a Moor classified as Indian, not Indian. A Moor classified as Indian is a British subject. Not an Indian is a British subject. Political status. An Indian is not a British subject. A Moor classified as Indian is a British subject. That's two different. We have to articulate that. When you say an Indian is a British subject, it's not the same as saying a Moor classified as Indian is a British subject. I want to make sure that language is articulated with clarity. I want to be unequivocally clear. I don't want to leave no doubt.
So that's very clear, because, like we said earlier, the word Negro was coined from the Spanish. In order to be a Negro, you have to be a Moor. So that's a Moor that's been categorized as a Negro. A Moor. So that's just called what Abdullah called is called apartheid, language apartheid. And what it does is it's changing your character, and that's the way of conquering the people and not letting them know you're the enemy. Because remember, all the esquires wrote the treaties. Now you notice something deep. When you read the 1744 treaty and the Moorish treaty, the Lancaster treaty, you notice that the Iroquois made it clear that they say the 5 nations, they never call themselves Indian. Go to the Iroquois Constitution. The word Indian is not in there. The word Indian don't exist in there. That's way. We got a document. The 1744 treaty make it separately clear. It say the 5 nations and the Indian nation. That's a separation. Now somebody said, what are the Indians? That's what the Moors call they conquer brother and sister. They conquer descent. That they conquer first. So a Indian is first categorized as it's a Moor first subject. But he's a Moor subject.
An Indian is of a classification of a Moor of consanguinity who is the subject of the Moors.
That's right, absolutely.
A Moor of consanguinity and a subject of the Moors.
That's right.
All right? That's what he's doing.
There we go. George Catalan painted this portrait of a Tai-Chi Cherokee man in 1836, shown wearing a turban, a popular headgear among the Cherokees. The Tai-Chi served as a guide for U.S. troops before the removal of the Cherokees in 1838. Wow, man. Do you see that?
If you visit Washington, D.C., come to the Library of Congress. Ask for the archives of the United States government's treaty with the Cherokee, an Indian tribe of 1787. There will be found the signatures of the then chief Cherokee named Abdikak and Muhammad ibn Abdullah. The contents of the agreements included the right of the Cherokee tribe to continue its existence in trade, shipping, and the form of government of the Cherokee tribe, which at that time was based on Islamic law. Furthermore, it will be taken before 1832. The last chief of the Cherokee tribe before it finally disappeared from mainland America was a Muslim named Ramadan ibn Wati. Talking about Cherokee tribe cannot be separated from the Sequoia. He was an educated native of Cherokee tribe and revived their tribal slavery in 1821. In fact, some 7th century Cherokee writings found carved into the rock in Nevada are very similar into Arabic word Muhammad. The names of Indian tribes and tribal chiefs derived from Arabic are not only found in the Cherokee or Cherokee tribes, but also Anasazi, Apache, Arawak, Arikana, Chepins Cree, Maka, Hohokam, Upa, Hopi, Mohican, Mohawk, Nazca, Zulu, and Zuni. In fact, some Indian tribal chiefs also wear Muslim headgear. They are the chiefs of the Chippewa, Creek, Iowa, Kansas, Miami, Potawatomi, Sauk, Fox, Seminole, Shawnee, Sioux, Winnebago, and Yuchi. This is shown in photographs from 1835 and 1870. In general,
let me show this. So this is the Oxford English Dictionary. Okay, the word nigger. Okay, so it's dark-skinned. It said a dark-skinned person of sub-Saharan African origin or descent. Okay, equal Negro. Okay, so, they want to put that as being African. Okay, but when you drop down to 3, it says a dark-skinned person of any origin. In early U.S. use usually with reference to American Indians. Okay, so nigger referred to American Indians. Okay, so why aren't men bringing this out when it comes to the Northern Kingdom? We talked about the senator that called us Aborigines. Alright, so which was muy suave to whites as to Negroes in his work in Brazil. The next year, June 1562, Duvelle also wrote to Rome using as Negroes for Americans, while in June 1565 he wrote to the Jesuits of Portugal about him Negro Pesado, and he also uses O Negro for a Tamil. In a footnote, the editor states Negro poor Indian. I don't know that, but basically, thus Negro is used for Indian, not for someone from Africa. So thus Negro is used for Indian and not for someone from Africa. Okay, so these Negroes, so you just hate the word Negro. But like I said, the Jews are people of color, Negroid, so to speak. So, like I was saying, I'm right here at an early period. An undetermined number of full-blooded or mixed-blood Indians were categorized as Negroes. Okay, so there we go again, full-blooded or mixed-blooded. Okay, because again, we read earlier that the Spaniards was dealing with black women. Okay, so, and a mulatto Okay, so it made little distinction. So let's hold that, get another source. Okay, this is Carolina Genesis. Okay, beyond the color line. Okay, and it says in 1676, after Holland transferred the region to England, English colonists considered dark-skinned Moors and dark-skinned natives of New England to be indistinguishable. Okay, so indistinguishable. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, Jeremiah, that other script, Salakia, the other source I'm just reading now, that's your Jeremiah 50 and 33. Okay, Judah and Ephraim are pressed together. Okay, so yeah, you got two on the same plantation, Africans and Indians, but they couldn't distinguish them. Okay, and this is another source to back up that source. Okay, so it says, according to David McRitchie and ancient and modern Britons, so yeah, like GMS and a lot of these camps, you delve into the ancient and modern Britons, but you didn't see this. You didn't see that. In 1681, the Indians of New England, or Moors as they were called by the English, so Indians was called Moors. Okay, and I was thinking about that I should have put that up about the Moors or Indians, because I got stuff showing how Indians are Moors, but I didn't want to put that up. But it's just showing you right here. Were described by Quaker William Penn to be as black as gypsies, and that's a cut to Ayash. He making videos and showing pictures of gypsies, talking about, you know what I'm saying, but they were black. Okay, Native and Gypsy, Sarfetic, and Marano, and I showed that in my Marano video. Of London, the caption below describes the archer as an American Indian, replacing the word Moor for Indian, the words being interchangeable at the time. So we already...
And no, if you don't believe me, you can look it up. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you see, the Moors conquered Sicily. And the Moors aren't niggers. You see, the Moors conquered Sicily. And the Moors aren't niggers. And the Moors aren't niggers. And the Moors aren't niggers.
State shall, this is the Georgia, this is actually on the University of Georgia site, their Law University section, right? Jurisdiction of inferior court. The inferior courts of the several counties of this state shall have jurisdiction over the several offenses created or mentioned by this act in all cases in which by the Constitution of the state jurisdiction may be entered by them. Number 47 goes on to say, exceptions in favor of Aborigines. And right beside that it says, guess what, you guys? Ding, 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 Moors. Exceptions in favor of the Aborigines, Moors, and Hindus.
Up in Peru, that people call Hindustan, that now they call India. And when you go into their anthropological records, and they will tell you themselves, they are Moors. And this is where they get the term Indian, when they start to call us Indians.
Number 47 goes on to say, exceptions in favor of Aborigines. And right beside that it says, guess what, you guys? Ding, 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 Moors. Exceptions in favor of the Aborigines, Moors, and Hindus. The provisions, prohibitions, and penalties of this act shall not extend to any American Indian, free Moor, or Lascar, I think it says Lascar, but the burden of proof in all cases of arrest of any person of color shall be on such person of color to show him or herself exempt from the operations of this act. Let me just read that one more time, if you guys can comprehend what this is saying. Jurisdiction of inferior court, number 46 at the bottom, page 53. It's page 833, actually, when you scroll down and go to this, to find this, okay? Jurisdiction of inferior court. The inferior courts of the several counties of this state shall have jurisdiction of the several offenses created or mentioned by this act, in all cases in which by the Constitution of the state jurisdiction. Moors, Aboriginals, American Indians are exempt, immune from criminal prosecution, and this Georgia state law goes for all states, okay, globally. So that means, attention international authorities, I require you to use this law in all matters pertaining to all Moors across the board, across the globe, and free them this night.